WKGN Revive 45, these are the turtles, and they're happy together. Actually, most turtles are happy together. I mean, you know, the divorce rate among turtles is much lower than it is among human beings.
Meet Alan Johnson, also known as Dr. Al Adams, a highly accomplished radio personality with a career spanning several decades. Starting as a student at Carson Newman College in Jefferson City, Tennessee, Alan's talent was recognized by Professor R.F. Coughlin, who gave him control of campus radio station WVCN in 1958. He quickly progressed to a weekend shift at WCRK in Morristown and landed a job at WKGN in Knoxville after impressing the powers that be with his air check.
My philosophy was, if I go on that radio and I have a ball, people are going to enjoy listening to me. If I have fun, they're going to have fun. That was my philosophy, and that's exactly what I did.
Later, he made waves at WIL in St. Louis and continued to move into bigger and better markets like WKDA in Nashville, WKRC in Cincinnati, WEBR in Buffalo, New York, and WHEN in Syracuse, New York, all during the 70s.
Dave Diamond was one of the, he was a program record probably that I probably loved most, admired most, although I had some great ones. And he heard that one day and he said, hey, this kid has some medical something thing, and he said, hey, when I give him an answer, he said, okay, thanks, Doc. He called me Doc. And then Dave Diamond came in and said, print it. You're Dr. Al. You're Dr. Al Adams. You're not just Al Adams, you're Dr. Al Adams. So from then on, Dr. Al on the radio, that's how it started.
His journey brought him back to WKGN, where he served as the morning drive DJ and program director.
Hey, that's what you feed the cows and the horses and Sunday night's girlfriend. She's a real pig. No, not really. Oh, Lord. Sunday night, come right in down the hall the other day, bam, into the control room and say, hey, Dr. Al, what would you give a girlfriend that has everything? And I said, well, I think I'd give her a shot of penicillin.
Later, Alan's career took an unexpected turn when he became a radio broadcasting instructor at Fulton High School, ultimately inspiring young broadcasters for 28 years on WKCS-FM.
I love those kids.
Throughout his teaching tenure, Alan nurtured future industry stars like Chuck Edwards, Jeff Jarnigan, Randy Miller, and Commander Chuck, among others.
And I came back to some of the greatest kids that I could have ever inherited. And from a teacher who passed away way too soon, Lynn Davis, had been the teacher, and he begged me to take it. And he said, Dr. Ellis, they deserve somebody like you.
After an illustrious career, Alan retired from teaching and broadcasting in 2004, leaving an enduring legacy in the field of radio broadcasting.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Station Manager of WKCS-FM and Fulton High School teacher, Russell Mays.
Sometimes as a teacher, you have to prove to your students that you know what you're talking about. I was a student at Fulton High School in the radio class when one afternoon Mr. Johnson pulled out a cassette tape. When he started playing it, I heard something I'd never heard before. It was WKGN in the early 1960s with a DJ named Dr. Al acting like a wild man. There was reverb in the microphone and the sounds of a studio audience. I could just imagine the teenagers cruising through town, listening to Dr. Al and his sidekicks, Willard the Duck and Witch Hazel. It was true personality radio. If folks in Knoxville are asked about the DJ they remember of their youth, someone always mentions Dr. Al, his hustling hearse, and going to dance on his Disco Teen television show. My parents even thought I was being taught by an honest-to-goodness celebrity. That is the power of radio. It takes us back to so many good memories. Dr. Al Adams was at the center of those great memories for so many people. As the door at WKGN was beginning to close, an entirely different door opened up. The teaching job was only supposed to be for a year, but it lasted nearly 30 years. That great personality DJ was now tasked with training the next generation of personalities. Dr. Al inspired future DJs like Randy Miller, Chuck Edwards, who's now in the Country Music DJ Hall of Fame, Jeff Jarnigan and Commander Butch Johnson, and countless others. Not only did he teach about the radio business and articulating when you speak, there were many lessons about life and a few sermons. He entertained countless people on the radio and mentored so many students and future broadcasters. I personally cannot thank you enough. You have had a Hall of Fame career as a broadcaster, and you're a Hall of Fame teacher. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce our next inductee into the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame. From WKGN Knoxville, WKDA Nashville, and WKCS-FM at Fulton High School, Mr. Alan Johnson, better known as Dr. Al Adams.
Didn't expect this. Russell Mays. I'm sorry. I never thought that I would ever leave the field of broadcasting as far as being on the air and being a disc jockey and a nut and having more fun than a man ought to ever be able to have. I enjoyed it and never worked more than 5 hours a day, 30 hours a week at the most. And I had a dear young man who had been under me as the schools would send their students out to watch and learn, and he'd answered my phones. They used to do that for free. I guess they still do. And he became the teacher at Fulton, and he's the one who recommended that they hire me. Well, they called me. Well, you know, my history's in here, all the stations and all that. I can tell you a couple of funny stories, and I can tell you a story about me and Sam Phillips and Sun Records and Elvis Presley's tape too. And thank you, sir, gentlemen. God bless you. We've worked hard and prayed for what you have achieved, what we have achieved in America. We used to drive up and down the streets with encouragement for those young men and women who were marching and standing in front of theaters. I've had so much joy in my life. I don't deserve to have lived as long as I have, but I thank God that I have. I've met some of the most wonderful people and worked with the most wonderful people and have the most wonderful family. My son, Kevin, my son, Fawn Johnson, and their sons. I have 2 grandsons, Brandon and Christian, and I love them both. And my wife, what's her name over there? She's here too. And Terry and Pamela, their wives. I love them to death. I'm just going to shorten this as much as I can. Jeff Jarnigan's sitting back there somewhere. And we watch Bobcats. We watch UT football. We watch the Titans. We are big Titans fans and football fans. And we turned I got a 93-inch TV downstairs, and we turned that thing all the way up. It's got surround sound. We turned that all the way up. Not to hear Bob Kesling. I want to hear Jeff Jarnigan, stadium announcer, in the background. Because he, Jeff, answer me. I know you're here. Hear what I mean? That's what I mean. From my first graduating class, Jeff and Randy, a bunch of them I can name, gone on and done wonderful and great things. I'm so proud of them. And as much as I enjoyed being a disc jockey, and I did, I had a ball. I had a TV show for almost 5 years, Disc-a-Teen. Dick Clark came down and co-hosted it with me one time. It was nothing but a local bandstand, and here's Dick Clark. He had a movie out or something he was promoting. And James Brown used to come up. James Brown owned a radio station in Knoxville, WJBE, and I loved him to death. Everybody did. And he'd come up and do those spins. Oh man, what a show. I've got a picture of me interviewing him out in the center of the dance floor, and I wouldn't take $1 million for it, and the memories that I have. And I'm not even going to talk about my days in radio. There's some funny stories I could tell, but I would rather introduce these people. They came after me to teach radio broadcasting because the teacher that I was talking about a moment ago recommended me, said there's nobody else that you can ever get that will equal this man, and they came after me. And I said, I'm not interested in this. I said the same thing when they offered me the TV show. They had to come down to the station and browbeat me into taking it. But I was glad I did because I made 2 salaries for 5 years. But anyway, they told me what it paid. And I thought, Lord, I felt so sorry for teachers. It was a little bit more than half of what I was making after coming from New York. I mean, when I left WHEN in Syracuse, New York, they gave me a silver cup engraved with my ratings. And they were number one, all the way down. And had a big dinner party, and I thought they'd be glad to get rid of me. They gave me a big dinner and gave me that silver cup and sent me to Knoxville. And after a few years, came after me to teach. And they told me the salary. And I said, there's no way. I told them, I said, I can't take that kind of a salary cut. There's just no way. So they said, okay, give us your college. I said, well, I got 6 years getting a 4-year worth of work at Carson-Newman College in Jefferson City. And then my first air experience was actually in 1958. I was 16, almost graduated high school at 16. I went on to Carson-Newman College, Jefferson City, Tennessee. And I got married, and I was still going to school, trying to work my way through. I'd become a full-time disc jockey and was doing all that. And they said, well, they called me back and they said, well, look, you got all this experience and all that. So what we'll do, we'll start you at step 10 on a 13-step pay scale. And now on top of that, you've got a bachelor's. We're going to pay you on a master's degree. All you got to do is go to UT and take a few adult technological courses. And I thought, well, and then they told me how much it was, and I thought, that's a $4,000 cut still. And I got to thinking about being off and growing up all over again with my 2 sons. And we bought a 24-acre place out in the country, the swimming hole, creek went all the way around it. We raised the garden for 8 years, and I decided I'm going to grow up all over again with my boys out there. I'll teach these kids. If it had not been, God bless you, thank you. If it had not been for the fact that a professional academy of broadcasting had called me the last 2 or 3 years that I was at WKGN just before I made this change, and I really enjoyed it. It was postgraduate. And then after teaching that, I had one woman 52 years old in the class. They were all ages, but most of them were postgraduate. And I found out that I enjoyed it, and then I was offered that job. And if it hadn't been for that, I'd never have taken a $4,000 a year salary cut, even at a master's degree pay. I was also, when I did go into teaching, God got into my life and put me into the ministry. And I pastored, interim pastored, associate pastored, and I taught Sunday school classes at 4 different churches over the last 40 years. And I was preaching, and this was after I'd been teaching for a few years. 1995, this young man graduated from Fulton High School, Russell Days. And I was at his church preaching a revival when he was in the 8th grade. And he came up to me out in the hallway after the service was over. And we had 3 young ladies saved that night. I preached a rough message, boy. He came up to me and he said, Mr. Johnson, he said, I want to be a sports announcer. I want to get into radio. I want to take your class. I want to come to Fulton next year and I'm going to take your class. And he never let me down, I'll tell you right now. You talk about a sports announcer. He can do basketball, football, baseball. I never heard. A high school kid. He could replace any football. Now, I don't care who. He is absolutely one of the greatest, and I'm so proud of him. And I got another one over here I'm going to introduce in just a minute. And that one back there, he didn't want to be heard, but he's here. And his picture's on the bottom of the page of those. You thumb through and look for Jeff Jarnigan there. He's down at the bottom of the page. And one of my, I used to be the, was my, not competition, I guess what you call it. I don't think he's here now, John Purple. I don't think he was feeling too good. He's a great man. He owns I don't know what he owns. He owns so many stations. I couldn't keep up with it. But I have another young man. Where is he? I can't see. Up in the balcony. What's he doing up there? Oh, he's recording. Chris Mays, Russell Mays, and Chris Wade. Chris Wade is graduated earlier than this young man, and Chris is now, they called him, he talked worked with several radio stations, and he did such a wonderful job. They called him, he was with HGTV at the time. He is now doing a radio and TV production at Carnes High School in Knoxville, and I was so proud of him. I wanted to bring him up on the stage, but he's up there doing what he does best, and that's running a camera. And they made a TV show about me in Knoxville, surprised me. After they done it, they told me what, I thought they were doing the history of the radio station, and it was on me. Rascals. Gang up on me. So a wonderful program tonight, and I want to thank Pamela. God bless you, dear. You do a wonderful job. And this is the most wonderful thing. Sam Phillips, I called him when Elvis died. I said, hey, Sam, I got a tape recording of Elvis Presley. It was just slapped up in the studio one time. And he said, how long is it, Dr. Al? And I said, it's 18 minutes. He said, I know about that tape. It's 23 minutes long. If you had the full length, he said, I'd buy it from you. Not only that, I'd pay you well. Oh boy, was I sorry. Well, anyway, God bless you. Thank you so very much for what you do. You wonderful radio and people for America. Russell.
Go. We're the Go.